Hello, this is Peter at Nota, and I'm here to run you through a demonstration of the new Verto system we have in DocuWare. So, the Verto suite is a number of tools designed to work in harmony with your DocuWare and ERP systems, allowing seamless transfer of data between the two environments. So essentially it means that when you receive invoices and credit notes into your accounts team, you can store them, validate them, and approve all of them in a very short time. So in this video, I'll be showing you the integration into SysPro, although it functions in almost identical manner between any ERP systems such as Sage or NetSuite. So as you can see here, I have a blank SysPro instance. If I quickly pull up two suppliers, 1027. The two suppliers I'm going to be demonstrating are Slater Harrison, which you can see have no items at the bottom here, and Pottery Crafts, which also have no items at the bottom. So, for those unfamiliar, the invoices will appear in a line across the bottom when they become present inside the SysPro system, and we'll be able to look at the GL codes assigned against them, etc. as we go forward. So, moving across to the DocuWare side, if I open up my DocuWare, the first thing you'll note is that every user has their own individual login to the system. And on the login screen, you'll be able to type in your username and password. In this case, I've got a generic accounts team member who'll be able to log in. And this is important for the audit trail later on as we start to process the different documents. So if I quickly log in here, this will take us into the main DocuWare screen. Now, on the right, you'll be able to see the document viewer. This is where documents will appear when they are opened. For example, if I open a document like this, you can now see one of the documents I'm going to be processing today. On the left, you'll be able to see where the majority of the actions will take place. So we're currently inside the document tray, which is this section here, as you can see. And up at the top, we have the option to search. So if we click, we can search inside the system, looking across any of the different index fields that we have. We have lists, which allow you to report or look at different documents or different statuses. And we have tasks, for which I currently have no tasks. And I'll come back to each of these different sections as we progress through the system. But for now, to the document tray. So, in the document tray, documents are imported into the system. So there are a couple of ways in which they can come in. You've either got an import folder on a server, which you can configure an MFD or a scanner to scan into directly, and it can be imported in. It can be pulled in through Connect to Outlook, where you will have an option inside your 365 Outlook where you can right-click Store to Document, and it will store the document. We can automatically pull in from any monitored mailbox, be it either Exchange or IMAP, or you can drag and drop into the system. In this case, I've already pre-entered several documents just to save a little bit of time of showing a video of me walking across the room, putting documents into a scanner, waiting for them to appear in a folder, etc. So these documents here are ones which I've already placed in. So I'm going to be running through two different processes, essentially. The first is going to be a fully automatic process, and the second is going to be a manual approval process. You can kind of see both sides of how the VertoSuite will work. So both can directly benefit your business. Standard configuration will have both routes configured and accessible to your accounts team, and you can choose whether you want to send a particular document down the manual or the automatic processing route. The idea being is if you decide that this supplier is able to be automatically processed but the others all require approval, or every supplier requires approval, you'll have the flexibility and choice to be able to decide at point of storage which version you would rather use. So I'm going to start with the fully automatic version as it's the fastest, and then I'm going to move across to the manual because it has a few more extra steps. So to begin with, we select a document. I'm going to go to document 1 here, and we drag it, click and drag into the indexing tray up at the top, so the II tray here. Now, this II tray is my automatic tray, and this is for intelligently indexing the document in question. Now, up on the top left here, you saw this little grey ribbon which has turned yellow. There are 3 different ribbons you can have here. You can have green, yellow and red. Red is less than 75% certain, yellow is less than 95% certain, and green is more than 95% certain that what is on the document is correct. So if I click this document and pull it across into my store dialog, I'll be able to see all of the data that it has pulled off of the invoice and where it thinks it comes from. So if I click on PO number, for example, it will highlight in yellow on the document that it has pulled it from here, which is correct. Invoice number is pulled out of invoice number correctly. Currency, it has pulled GBP from down here, which is correct. I'm going to set the tax code on here to 20%. And all of the rest of that looks pretty good. So if I check the line item table, stock code is correct, description, quantity is listed at 72, price each at 13.20, and price total at 950.40, which you can see it's pulled in. Now, if this was a multi-line invoice, we would also be able to specify tax code, GL code, and PO number per line as well. However, because this is only a single line, they all refer to the header level values, because there's no point having a PO'd invoice for a different PO on a line. So I'm going to hit store, and that will now store it into the system. So once it's inside, it's then going to run through several checks. I'm just going to pull this list up so we can see when it appears here. First, it will run a duplicate check. Do we already have this document in the system? Then it will start running through different checks, such as header checks. Is the net correct? It will pull down the PO, say, do we have a PO for this value? It will pull down a GRN. Do we have the matching GRN for these items? It will then compare the net value against the PO net value and see if they pair. It will then check each different line items. Can I find this line item on the PO and the GRN? Does this line match? If this line matches, we'll move on to the next line and continue down, etc. until all of the lines have been done. After that, it will come back and appear in this posting list, as you see, where it says that this is all correct and valid and is now being ready to be posted into SysPro. Once the batch time has expired, which is about 30 seconds on our demo system, it will then push it into SysPro and it will disappear out of this list and it will be in SysPro ready for viewing. It is literally that quick. So the question that might come to mind is, what if something goes wrong? Well, if something is wrong or something is incorrect, then it will be sent back to the user for them to action, which I will show you later on. For now, however, this has left my tasks and appears inside SysPro. So if I go back to Slater Harrison, you'll see across the bottom here, this invoice line has now appeared exactly as it was put in previously. And if I query the invoice and show the GL distribution, you can also see it is lodged against the correct GL code as was stored against it. So everything has gone in and that document is now processed. That was the fully automatic with no errors. Now, when it comes to the manual process, it's a little bit different, but it's almost exactly the same. So to begin, I go to my document tray. I find the document I want to process, and just to show you that I've got no index against it, it's not yet been indexed. I drag it into my manual tray. So in this time, I go to the II-Verto instead of II-Verto Auto. Intelligent indexing will run over the document again. Shortly, the ribbon will change color, and I'll be able to push it into a document tray. So this is green, so it's pretty confident in what it's found. Move it into my dialog. Check down all of my values. I need to set my tax code. And all of this looks to be correct. Now usually if a document is green, I personally will be quite happy in just hitting store and letting Verto do the rest of the work for me, but it's always worth checking over just in case anything is wrong. However, if there is something wrong, Verto will flag it back up to you, so it won't matter. If I hit store, that will now go into the manual process and the exact same thing as before will now occur. It will do the duplicate check, it will do the net value check, it will pull down the PO, the GRN, it will check all the different line items, except this time, instead of going straight to the task list for processing and posting, it's going to come through to a different set of tasks, one which will be assigned to the accounts team. Now, this task here up at the top currently has no tasks against it. When the little red one appears, I have a new task, and if I click on tasks now, that will change yellow because I have now looked at the tasks and there are no new ones here for me. If I double click the task, it will open the document in the viewer and it will show me that I have a task which I need to action. So, what are the choices that we have access to? So, as an accounts member, at this point, this is a new document that needs checking. So, I can send it out for approval. This will send it out to an authorizer user that I can select. I can post it directly into SysPro, which if I have the ability to say, yes, this is authorized, for example, I have an authorization limit of £100 and this is a £75 invoice, I can say, yes, I approve this myself. It doesn't need to go away. I can resend it back to Verto. For example, if there is a spelling mistake which I've amended, or if there is a change which needs to be noted on and needs to be rechecked. I can archive the document. So this is store this document in the system, but do not process it any further. For example, if we have a duplicate of which it's a better quality than the one that's in the system, but we have to keep both for audit purposes, we can just archive it away and it won't be processed. Or we can delete the document and say, no, I don't want this document, it's a complete error, bin it off, and we'll put something new in. Now, it is worth noting that this is the only stage in the system that you can actually delete documents out, because after this point there is an approval process and there is an audit history against the document, so there'll be no way to remove it after this stage. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to send this one out for approval rather than hitting post, because that will do exactly the same as the automatic did. And I'm going to send it out to an approver account, which I have here, and hit confirm. That will now disappear out of my task list and will appear in an approver list. In true Blue Peter fashion, here is an approver I logged in earlier. And if I click on the tasks that the approvers have, you'll notice the exact same interface will appear. They can look at the document and they get their tasks on the left. The first thing to note is that the approver has a big blue stamp on the document with the person who did it, so Verto AP1, Accounts Team 1. It was sent for approval, the date and time it was sent out, who it was sent to, and any notes they put against it. This is where the audit trail starts to build, because from this point there is visible stamps on the document at every stage of when it has been actioned, who has actioned it, and what they've done with it. Now, the approvers themselves have 4 options. They have the choice of approved. Now, approved is exactly what it says on the tin. I approve this document, carry on. Declined, again, what it says on the tin. I decline this document, and they'll have to put in a reason why they have declined it. Reassign allows them to assign it to another authorizer if they need to chase it back. For example, if they are about to go on holiday, or if the value is above what they are allowed to authorize, they may reassign it to somebody else. Then they have inquiry. Inquiry basically puts the document on hold until they have resolved whatever query they have. For example, if they were to put in the inquiry, need to chase up a credit note, it would put it on hold, and as an accounts member you would be able to search inside the system, see the document as inquiry, and be able to go, okay, that is what it is doing. So there's no more waiting around and wondering what is going on with the document. You can see quickly and clearly what is happening. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to approve it so that it will go back to the accounts. This is all good. In fact, I'm going to put a spelling mistake in there just so you can see it on the stamp. Hit confirm, and that now goes back to the accounts team. Now, if I pull up the task that has come back in the stamp here, you'll be able to see that this is the stamp I've just put in, spelling mistake and all. And the accounts team here have new options. Now, a green stamp shows that it's been approved. A red stamp shows that it's been declined. A blue stamp is it's been sent out for approval, and black stamps are usually system stamps, but the colour may change depending on your particular configurations. Within the accounts workflow, when it comes back, they have the option to send it back out again. For example, if it's been declined and they've amended it or they've got notes that's changed the circumstance, they may send it back out for approval again. They can post the invoice, which will send it across to the ERP. They can resend it back to Verto if they have to make more checks, although this will send it all the way back to the beginning of the process and they'll have to reauthorize the document again if they do. Or they can archive the document out. Notice they don't have the option to delete at this stage because it has already been through the approval process. Now, in some systems, Sage 50 is an example, you'll use post CSV instead of post invoice because Sage 50 uses a CSV importer rather than a direct API connection. But in this case, we'll be using the post invoice because Syspro does support full API integration. Posted. Now, if I hit confirm on here, that will move the document out of Workflow 10 into my posting list where I'll be able to see it in there, and after a few moments, once the batch time has expired, this will appear back inside Syspro. Now if I pull up Syspro, move across to Pottery Crafts, you'll see the document has appeared here. So that's a full process of a manual. Now, how can I see these documents? Well, if I go into the search and I run a search, I can specify searches based on company name. I can specify based on supplier name, so Pottery Crafts or Slater Harrison, the two I've been using. I can search by a date range, for example, stored the beginning of this month through to the end of this month. And if I hit search, it will then pull back all the documents that are valid for that period. If I double click them, you'll be able to see all of the stamps posted on. You can even see the spelling mistake I put in posted up at the top, so you can see the date, time, and any notes that were made. So the last question then is, what happens if something goes wrong? So it would be nice if every document came in was always flawless and always matched perfectly, but we all know that doesn't always happen. So in this case, I'm going to pick a document which has something wrong in it. I'm going to go for price each too high. Which one of these looks good? You can see I have many different documents of lots of different styles. That one looks good. I'll drag it across into my automatic store. Allow the document to index. So the reason I've picked this one is because looking through, this one is nice and obvious as to what the problem is here. This line here, quantity is 10 and 10 times 5 is not 40. However, we'll process it with the mistake just so you can see what will happen. So here we can see it's pulled out all of my correct data. So if I set my tax code to 20%, it's pulled the VAT correct, the net's correct, the gross is correct, the line table values is correct, including my error line here, 10. And I'm going to hit store. Now, because I've pushed this through on the automatic process, what you would expect to happen is it will go away, it'll do the duplicate check, it will find there is no duplicate, it will then start running the line checks, it will find there is a line error, and it will come back. Now, when an error is found, what happens is, regardless of how it goes in, it gets pushed across to the manual process. As you can see, I've now got a task that's appeared. It tells me there is a line item error. And if I hit resend to Verto, it will show me the line table. And if I scroll all the way across to the right, it will show me this line here has a quantity too high during quantity mismatch on it, which I know is the 10 value. If I then corrected that to 8 and press confirm, that will then loop back round and will then be ready for processing. As you can see here, the extra file has appeared in here, and if I open it up, you can see there is a big red error stamp to show that there was an error on this document. It has been amended and it has been sent back for processing. So, I hope you've all enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.